Political uncertainty and empty stomachs in Zimbabwe. How long can it last? Hello, I'm Dumyake Mwakaliele.
And I'm Vincent McCory. Also coming up, world markets react to the economic crisis in the United States. All this and more on this edition of In Focus. We'll get to the economic crisis and Wall Street role in it a little later. First, Zimbabwe's political future hangs in the balance as politicians haggle over key cabinet positions. But for many people in Zimbabwe, their primary concern is more urgent. VOA's Chris Simpkins explains.
Zimbabwe is facing a severe food shortage. Millions are starving, and others are desperate to find affordable food. At this market, people try to cope with the skyrocketing cost of food.
Things are just going up by the day. So at least now we've just decided to come and buy a few items here. But basically the prices are quite high.
The Red Cross and other relief agencies are distributing emergency supplies. They estimate more than 2 million people are hungry, and they predict the number will rise to 5 million by the end of the year. Jennifer Parmalee is a spokeswoman for the United Nations World Food Program. She says shortages have been growing since May, when the government suspended some relief activities.
The good news today is that we have started the registration process countrywide for the most vulnerable people in Zimbabwe. We've already started the first food distributions in the countryside, and we expect to be up to 2 million by the end of this month.
2 years of poor harvest have aggravated years of food shortages. Also, the country is suffering from hyperinflation and a currency with almost no value. As Zimbabweans line up to get money, there has been a run on the banks. The crisis comes as President Robert Mugabe and opposition leader Morgan Tsvangirai struggle to implement a power-sharing agreement. Mr. Tsvangirai will serve as prime minister. He warns of massive starvation unless a new government is formed soon.
It is therefore imperative that a government be formed in the next few days and begins to implement plans to ensure that our people have food and do not die of starvation.
At the United Nations in New York last month, President Mugabe criticized Western nations for maintaining economic sanctions against his country.
We would hope in the first place that sanctions would be lifted. There is no reason for imposing sanctions on Zimbabwe at all.
Mr. Mugabe says sanctions have hindered Zimbabwe's efforts to increase food production. But critics say Mr. Mugabe's land reform policies contributed to the food shortages and destroyed the economy. In 2000, the government seized thousands of white-owned commercial farms and distributed them to mostly Mugabe loyalists who had little or no knowledge of running farms. The U.S. Agency for International Development says without an increase in food imports, Zimbabwe could run out of cereals, corn, and other key grains as early as November. Christopher Molam is an economics professor at VOA University in Cameroon.
Even the understanding of the mindset of Mugabe, it is a little bit pretty difficult. If there's no understanding between those who are willing to give the assistance and the government, it will be pretty difficult in terms of distribution.
Despite efforts to boost food supplies, some analysts say tougher times are ahead for Zimbabwe because fuel shortages and other transportation problems are hampering food distribution. Meanwhile, Western nations are waiting to see if the new government will get up and running before they lift the sanctions. Chris Simpkins, VOA News.